Want to go deeper with Lobbing Scorchers? You know, scratch under the surface, get down even dirtier than we already get? Become a YouTube member. Sometimes things just get a little too spicy, a little too weird, and a little too loose for the general public. And you know, the people to see that are YouTube members. We're talking about exclusive bonus videos, the podcast after show, exclusive written content, and little bits and pieces of information before the unwashed masses know about it. As a member, you not only get access to all of this amazing content, you get a badge next to your name and a slew of amazing emotes to use, not only in our live stream chat, but also in our comments section. And yes, we do have an emote for Jesus Ferreira, Go Snack, and Paul Rothrock. This is the best way to help keep us independent and keep us building out this crazy YouTube brand that we call Lobbing Scorchers. Hit the join button down below or hit the link in the top of our description if you're on mobile to join the ranks and become a Lobbing Scorchers YouTube member.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Lobbing Scorchers Kickoff. I'm Ari. That's Nico. We got a big show for you all here this morning, folks. It is time for the playoffs. The Seattle Sounders have a round one matchup on the docket with Minnesota United. We'll be previewing that. We'll be taking a look at the other playoff matchups from around Major League Soccer. We got the wild card round, and we've got a few other round one matchups set. And then we're going to be talking about a couple of MLS coach storylines. We got a couple to hit regarding a Chris Armas press conference for the Colorado Rapids that kind of resembled the one that Brian Schmetzer had after the New York City FC game, except it was even more of a contentious interaction between coach and journalist there. We're going to play that. We'll react to it. We'll see what we think of the conduct of Chris Armas. Spoiler alert, it was not good conduct. And then we also have an MLS coach firing Ronnie Dyla out at Atlanta United, the first domino to fall as we look ahead to the playoffs and then the subsequent Major League Soccer offseason. So a lot to get to. Nico, what's up, man? How are you feeling post NYCFC press conference? We talked about it on the watch along, but you know, a couple days removed. How you doing, man?
Hey, man, I am feeling pretty good. I've been able to watch that New York City FC game one more time, and I was even more encouraged than I was watching it live the first time. Clearly, there's a big looming cloud above the entire win and the close of the 2025 season because of Pedro de la Vega's injury. But we are hoping that maybe that is not an ACL and it's something less serious that it might keep him away for, this year in the playoffs, but it won't be an issue starting 2026. And I feel like that's best case scenario, to be quite honest. So feeling good. A lot of messages from the fans. So I'm appreciate everybody reaching out, talking about all kinds of stuff about the game, not about the game. So yeah, man, it's exciting. I feel like everybody has been very active, engaged in social media.
Yeah, I guess let's just let's start right there before we do all that. If everyone could please like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Instagram and TikTok, like the reel we posted on both of those platforms of Noah photoshopping Jordan Morris into a Mets jersey. If you were watching the watch along, it was he worked really hard on it, and it's only at 200 likes. So give the New York Mets Photoshop a like. And buy the Lobbing Scorchers hot sauce via Hacks and Ferments, lobbingscorchers.com/sauce. And I think that's everything that we have to show. We're going to be doing a lot of playoff coverage. So everyone just get ready to lock in. It's time for the postseason. It's the best time. So the content train keeps rolling. We're not stopping. Nico, I guess, why don't we start with what you were just talking about right there. You said you went back and watched the NYCFC game. Obviously, a good result for the Sounders on decision day, and a good performance, I think, more importantly. On rewatch, what did you like? I mean, they get the 2-1 win, a Jackson Reagan game winner. It looks like another blown lead, but then the response was very good. They come back, they get the game winner, and they hold on for the 2-1. And then obviously what you mentioned, though, yeah, it is a cloud over the whole situation with Pedro de la Vega going off with the injury. As of this recording, we still don't know the severity or how long it's going to keep him out. It seems like he's probably not going to play in the playoffs. We don't know that for sure yet, but I think in all likelihood, we're looking at a playoff run without Pedro de la Vega. What'd you see on rewatch? And then I guess, how are you feeling about this team's chances of making an MLS Cup run if they do indeed have to do it without Pedro de la Vega?
Yeah, look, on rewatch, I was just more encouraged about Seattle at times not doing well dealing with the ebbs and flows of the game. You hear Brian Smetzer talk a lot about ebbs and flows and the way that at times a team can get on top of you and make a couple of changes, and maybe the tempo of the game switches or the momentum. And I thought that Seattle in the beginning of the second half, New York City comes off with all the intensity, and they really do manage to control a little bit of that game right at the start of the second half. And I thought Seattle managed that well. I thought that the substitutions were timely. Bush, Schneider, Burnell for JP, and then John Bell for Alex Roldan. Obviously, John Bell being more of a defensive type of fullback, or he dropped back like a 3-man back line. I mean, I just feel like he gave a lot of soliditude to the team, and what you wanted to do against New York City FC was prevent them from hurting you in transition. And I thought that Seattle did that fantastically the whole game. All the guys were on the right side of the ball, goal side. There were a lot of Sounder players that were defending well. They didn't. It's not that they were dropping incredibly deep. They were just very compact. Their lines were very compact, and I thought that they controlled the game of where they wanted to play that in different lapses of the game. Where they wanted the confrontation line to be, I felt like that's where it was at, regardless of how that changed throughout the game. I think defense is something that we have all thought that we want to see back with the Sounders, right? I mean, regardless of how entertaining and good and fun it is to have a team that creates so many chances and has so much volume, I think that we all know that when it comes to the playoffs, you got to be better defensively. And I thought that they were better defensively. The equalizer comes in a moment where, once again, I think Paul Rothrock rushes. Danny Leyva still trying to get up. I think Nico Fernandez is still trying to get him up when Paul Rothrock's already playing that ball negatively back into the Sounders on third, where New York City already has numbers forward, and the repress is just a lot easier. That creates a disbalance there. Eventually, Danny Leyva, there's a bad turnover on him. I don't know if necessarily on him. I think he was trying to make a quick pass. It has to do a lot with the pressure that New York City was giving you, and that creates an equalizer. But aside from that, I thought that Seattle was just very disciplined. I thought that their defending was very effective, and that's probably the biggest thing that I took out of the second time I watched that.
And regarding De La Vega, how are you sizing up the team's chances if they do have to play the playoffs without him? I mean, I guess for me, where my mind goes, I mean, it creates an opportunity theoretically for a guy like Georgie Manungu to step up. But I'm also I'm thinking about the Ryan Kent X Factor. Has he been training, and is he like on track to be back on the field and contributing for the postseason? It feels like I haven't really thought about it in a while, but it feels like the timeline should be about right for him to come back, which that would be fortuitous timing given the De La Vega situation. What's going on with that?
Yeah, he definitely has been training, and he's been part of, he's been a partial participant consistently over the last week. However, Brian has been very cautious on not providing a timeline. That tells me that he's not medically cleared to actually play. With the severity of the injury that he has, I think even if you're feeling well as a player and you feel like you could do certain things, when it comes to explosive plays, when it comes to shooting the ball at a certain pace, just the physicality of regular competitive minutes, you got to be careful. You got to be mindful. And I just don't think that he's quite there yet. What I would think is that they are continuing to build up Ryan Kent to use him kind of like a break the glass emergency type of play.
Hey, that's your quoting Hebrew Hammer right here in chat. Break glass in case of emergency. Ryan Kent.
Yes.
It's
correct.
an emergency.
Yep. That's exactly it, right? You're chasing a goal. You need something different. Without Pedro de la Vega, it is going to be a collective effort to replicate a lot of the things that he does. And although Georgie Manungu has that one-on-one ability, he's very hard to defend, and he's gotten so much better on the defensive side. He's gotten so much better on decision making. There's clearly a decline on that specific position when Pedro's not there, because of everything that he's been able to do, the proven product that he's been on the field, his mid-range shots, his creativity, his passing, that he tries to thread the needle every single time. And not always does it go through, but when it does, he creates very good opportunities. I think that he reads his spacing very well. I think he makes the correct runs into the 18. Not that Georgie can't do that, but there's clearly, one step back from what Pedro has been doing. So it's going to be a collective effort, right? Paul Rothrock has done so many great things. And Georgie's, I got to get coming off the bench, or maybe he could start. Ryan Kent's available, of course. So luckily for the Sounders, there is a lot of depth in that position. However, I am not going to hide the fact that without Pedro de la Vega, in my opinion, the percentage that Seattle goes into a deep run has decreased significantly because, again, he is an X factor. He's a game changer. And anytime that you lose that sort of player, a team is likely not to go as far as they could have had.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what everyone's thinking about right now, or at least what I'm thinking about, is how the De La Vega situation affects Seattle's chances to make a deep run. And I do think anytime you lose a player of that caliber, you're right, it decreases the percentage odds that you're going to make it as far as you would like in the playoffs. I do think this team is more suited than most, perhaps, to withstand a situation like this. You do have good options at that position. I mean, you got Paul Rothrock, you got Georgie Manungu. Hopefully you got Ryan Kent coming back. So I guess what I'm saying is it makes the road to MLS Cup more difficult, more daunting, longer odds, but they're not chalked. They're not chalked. I don't think anyone should be going into this feeling like Seattle's got no chance or the MLS Cup ambitions are done for. I don't feel that way. I feel like this team can still make a run. They've played without De La Vega a lot. They obviously look a lot better when he plays. And frankly, if he was healthy, I would feel pretty damn good about this team's chances, even without the home field advantage in the playoffs. I think De La Vega has been in that good a form, and that's why it's just so unfortunate what happened in that game. We obviously are hoping for the best, but it just sucks because he had all the injury issues last year, and he did a little bit at the beginning of this year, but he had been on the field contributing for most of this year and looking actually like the player that they thought they were getting when they shelled out $7 million to Lanús to get this guy. How he played this year is what everyone was hoping for when they got this player. I mean, he scored a Puskás nominee, for God's sake. I mean, he scored the best goal we've seen an MLS player score in years, perhaps ever. I don't know. Like that, I think that goal was that good. So we'll see how the team handles it. But I do think, like, if there is a team that can withstand this, it should be this team. So, and we'll see if that pans out. Nico, I think everyone saw what happened at the presser with Brian Schmetzer not taking too kindly to your question regarding Pedro de la Vega, and I don't know. I went back and watched it again, and I just think that's it's just a little silly because what he was taking issue with, I think, is not he was not interpreting correctly what people were saying regarding the stakes of this game. I understand that when a coach hears the word meaningless, they're immediately going to react negatively to that, and that's what he was saying. No game is meaningless. We take every game, every tournament seriously. This was not a meaningless game. I would not have adjusted my lineup at all based on it being meaningless. The term meaningless in this context does not mean like that the game doesn't matter or that the performance doesn't matter or that it's like a pointless game that you shouldn't try. That's not what people are saying. Meaningless in this context means that no matter what the result is, your position in the standings isn't going to change. You were in fifth going into this game. You were going to be in fifth coming out of this game, no matter what. So I think maybe people should have used the term like, instead of meaningless, like doesn't affect where you're going to finish in the standings one way or the other. When you're in a situation like this where it doesn't affect your position in the standings or your playoff seeding one way or the other, it's a completely normal, non-controversial question to wonder if that should affect how you deploy your lineup. Like it's no different than we see it in the NFL. Week 17 when teams have their playoff seeding locked up and they hold the starters out to keep them fresh and keep them healthy and fit for the playoffs. It's a little different, I get, because football is like a much more physically violent sport where you would be more inclined to hold someone out in a situation like that. But I mean, like the situation with De La Vega is why people were talking about that. So I mean, I just think there was a disconnect between the questions that were getting asked and how he was interpreting what people were saying. Like I said, I understand why a coach would take issue with characterizing a game as meaningless, but like it's people weren't saying meaningless in the way that he was putting that meaning onto it, if that makes sense. So I don't know. That's just kind of how I feel about the situation, having a couple days removed from it. How are you feeling, man? You were the one who Schmetz was coming after, which is nothing new. You guys have your little dynamic, but I think that was among the most tilted I've ever seen in that year. But, I don't know, like, don't you think it's like watching it again, it's like these they're talking about two different things. He's like responding to something that's not getting asked.
Yes. So, now that I've had a couple of days to think about it, and look, I think there's a lot of factors. One is the emotion that I feel like Brian was expecting that question, and he was expecting to be made responsible for it, right? I feel like he knew that there was going to be somebody who was going to blame him for that. And for me, I was going to make that question a lot simpler and a lot shorter and more direct. But I knew that if I asked him, hey, did you feel like it was the right decision to play Pedro de la Vega, he was going to immediately think that I was questioning whether or not he should have started. And that's not where I was going with it, because
he took it like that anyway.
Exactly. So, and I actually agreed with the fact that you wanted to start De La Vega. And if you, again, look at my X and my social media, even before the presser, I was already answering to people because they had that question, that the reason why Pedro, it was important for him to be out there was because of game rhythm, because, some of the knee issue, the tendonitis at times feels like it stiffens up when there isn't more activity, and that competitive minutes, I think, would do him more good than bad. So the risk reward there were a higher reward than the risk of a potential injury. But he took it immediately that way, right? And to be fair, maybe because I kind of prolonged the question and I try to preface it with a whole bunch of things, it got convoluted and maybe he couldn't quite grasp what I was asking. And then when I tried to rephrase it, that's when I was kind of feeling the heat, because I truly empathize with the situation, right? And I didn't want him to feel attacked, and that just made it worse. So, quite honestly, Ari, you know that when it comes to pressers, it is part of the game to get into some sort of dynamic or heated conversation with the coach, Caleb Porter and Bruce Arena, and whoever. Me and Brian have our dynamic, but that one was a little bit more heated, I think, because of the emotion that went into it. But like I always say, look, if I ask a dumb question, which it does happen, right? In media, just like it does in sports. Yeah. Sometimes you fumble, sometimes you miss a clear opportunity. Sometimes with media, you ask a dumb question. This wasn't a dumb question. I just think that I phrased it maybe a little bit too convoluted, and he couldn't quite grasp it. I hope that by now he understands that what I wanted to ask was, look, the narrative surrounding this injury because of Pedro's injury history could very easily be why was he a starter? Was it worth starting him? Explain to me why it was so important that he started this game. And I thought that he was going to give me something about, the fact that you want to build some continuity going into the playoffs. And, he said part of it. Some of the things he answered, right? He deserves to be out there. He's been playing well. He gave you that. He's trending this way. Oh, by the way, I had said that on X 25 minutes before he answered that question. I mentioned the fact that Pedro Vega had been trending in the right direction, had been training no problem, right? So he, for all accounts, was clear to play, right? And the same way that people had issues with Pedro starting, some people had issues with Jordan or Ferreira or other starters that were part of that game, but then in reality we knew that he was going to put together a good lineup that was going to go out there and win, and they did that. But at the same time, the risk reward when it came to Pedro de la Vega was maybe a little bit different. And sometimes something like this is at times unfair for a coach, because if nothing happens to Pedro de la Vega, then they won the game. It was the perfect call. Great job at getting Pedro de la Vega going and comfortable and confident going into the playoffs. But then something like this happens, and then it's like, damn it, worst decision ever. Let's get Brian out of here. So I was trying to prevent that. And again, I was of the mindset that, and I think I said it with you, I think it's important that front four starts another game and gets more time together going into the playoffs. So it is what it is. I'm obviously not going to take it personally. Maybe at first I was a little bit more jaded, a little bit more heated, but now that I've had a couple of days to digest it, and I have read the good comments, and I have read the bad comments from people. If you did not understand my question, then I don't know if maybe you didn't quite get where I was going with it, but I had an idea of what I wanted to do. I can definitely admit that maybe I could have phrased that a lot better. But at the end of the day, I thought that the question needed to be asked. It was asked, and he answered partly because I asked the question. So I have no regrets other than maybe rephrasing that a little bit better. And again, I'm not mad about it. I totally understand why Brian would be in that sort of mindset, kind of just ready to go, right? It doesn't matter who was going to say something. He was going to just go for it. And then after I asked the question, Felipe asked the question about whether the game was meaningless or not. And then he just completely went off his hinges. He just went off his hinges and just like started smacking the table. And you guys don't listen to me, which is completely wrong. I mean, again, when it comes to me, I was asking because I knew that people wanted to know, right? And a lot of times when I ask questions, it is better for that sort of thing to be answered by the coach than by me. I shouldn't be the one saying this is why Pedro started that game. When Brian says it, it has more validity, and that's all I wanted to get out of it.
It is a bit of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation for a coach. People might not admit or acknowledge this, but we know that if he had put out a rotated, rested starting 11 and effectively punted that game, it's the type of thing that people ask for, but then when it actually happens and then you lose the game, then people crush the coach for the narrative would have been like, oh, he cost the team momentum going into the playoffs by playing this rotated 11. It wasn't worth the rest. And that would have been the narrative. That would have been the narrative. If they had played a rotated lineup and lost that game, no one in this chat would be understanding of that. Like, I seriously doubt it. You have to actually be willing to accept what the consequences are of that, which in that case, like if he had been like, all right, I'm gonna this doesn't matter standings wise, it's not meaningless. It doesn't matter standings wise. I'm gonna rest De La Vega, I'm gonna rest Ferreira, I'm gonna rest this guy, and this guy. They probably lose the game, and then the narrative is just negative in a completely different way. So it is like it was a interesting and kind of tough coaching dilemma for him, like how to approach the lineup for this game. And like, to be fair, man, like if I had been saying before the game, look, it's not worth putting De La Vega out there for this game. You shouldn't do it. You shouldn't start him. He's got the knee tendonitis. Just give him a rest on the baseball field and then get him back out there for the playoffs. If I had been saying all that, then I would feel licensed to do the 2020 hindsight I told you so stuff. I didn't say that. No one said that. Literally, I can't name one person who specifically was saying, like, before the game when the graphic came out, oh, like, why is De La Vega in there? I don't think I saw much, if any, of that. So it was pretty funny when Felipe came in and then the whole situation just escalated from there. But no, I mean,
yeah,
like,
no, and the funny part is that ironically, I thought that Brian Smetzer did a fantastic job at putting the right players to start that game, rested Christian Roldan, rested Obed Vargas, took off Alex Roldan at the right time because he had a whole lot of minutes. I thought that he did a great job at keeping that attacking four together so they could build some momentum. Everything that he did in the game, I thought was positive, and I was completely on board with what he had put together and how the team had executed that. And maybe that's why it felt like I didn't deserve that smoke, because look, if you know me, and maybe you don't, but I don't run away from the smoke, baby. I want the fire. I don't even want the smoke. I want the fire. I'm more than happy to debate with you, to throw hands with you, whatever it is that you want to do. I don't back up from nothing. You know, I'm like the little honey badger. You know, it might be that I ain't no 6 foot tall, but I am going to come at you immediately. So in this one, I didn't want it because I was completely on Team Brian when he came to
trying to give him the
exactly.
Saying,
what I thought was a
fans,
softball,
and
then he just
say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You got it. You got it. And I'm glad you got it. I'm glad that Jeremiah O'Shane got it. You know, he immediately called me and he was like, Nico, I thought that the your question, I understood it. I thought that, you know, it was pretty self-explanatory. Had a lot of people reach out. I read some comments, you know, that weren't as great. And that's totally fair. Everybody is entitled to their opinion. But again, the good, the bad, you know, I stand tall when it comes to this sort of situation, and I back completely what I wanted to do with that question.
We were doing the watch along, like we're not usually doing watch alongs during Sounders games. We were just doing that for decision day, and everyone's reaction in the moment was that exact question, like, should he have even been out there?
Of course.
Noah was crashing out saying that he shouldn't have been out there at all.
Yeah.
It wasn't just him. There was a lot of people in chat also expressing similar sentiments. And then I think you know, once everyone cooled down, the general sentiment was that I think people at least understand, you know, why the lineup was what it was, even if the outcome was disastrous. Hebrew Hammer, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you getting the train rolling. He says playing Peppo and the other two DPs makes sense. Any upset about playing Peppo is hindsight. Yeah, like it's all hindsight.
Correct.
You know, because now we know what the outcome was. It's easy to look back and say that it should have been handled differently. But you know, like I always say, man, if I can understand the thought process and the logic behind why decisions like this get made, then I'm not going to base how I think of it on what the outcome is, even if it's negative. Like I don't think it was a reckless call or an indefensible call to have him in that in that lineup.
No, and look,
Yeah.
some people kind of brought up the factor of the field conditions. Was that something that was really worth it? But look, again, it's all about risk reward, and there was more to gain out of Pedro playing that game than there was to lose. And just to again add to the decision being made, Pedro had been flying across training, had been flying. I think we were all wondering, you know, the whole point of this is to build up Pepo to play 90 or close to 90, because maybe that's the one thing that he wasn't doing, was when he's going to be able to play more minutes. So for all accounts, we were just hoping for more minutes rather than less. So, like people say, it's hindsight, right? I heard a comment to somebody saying, well, if Brian had not played Pedro, then Nico would ask why Pedro wasn't playing. And that is not true. I wanted Pedro in, and if he had not been in, I would have, I would have stuck to what I said prior to the game. I'm not going to change my mind depending on whether a player played or not. I wanted Pedro in. Brian put Pedro in, and that was as good as it was. So it's not that I'm trying to go against what Brian does. It's just we were ironically in the same page, and then it didn't quite look like that afterwards. And look, people also have a problem with the fact that there are no meaningless games, and I also understand that, right? I mean, there was it was a low stake game, but it was more about keeping momentum and carrying that over into the playoffs. And that is more important than you may think. You don't want to, and again, I said this prior to this game, you don't want to take in a couple of goals, 3 goals, or be outmatched, or just simply put in a poor performance that, is bleak and, uninspired.
That would have been bad. That would have been bad. That would have been not the vibes that you want going into the playoffs.
Totally agree.
I fully think it would have been way worse to put out like a punt the game type lineup, which, Schmetz doesn't do that anyway. But like, if he had done that in this case and they went out there and got worked in the Mets outfield and then had those vibes going into the playoffs, now, you do have good vibes and some confidence going into the playoffs. I think in a way that game was a perfect playoff tune-up. In the sense that you had to go on the road, which you're going to have to do a lot in the playoffs, depending on how far you make it. But this Minnesota United series, you're going to have to go on the road, play in a tough environment, going on the road, playing against a really good team. That NYC team is no joke, man. They're really good. They got Nico Fernandez, Alonso Martinez,
Maxi Morales,
48 years old, but like still doing it at pretty much the same
level
he always does. And
Andres Perez, a really good player. He's very underrated. He's been in the league for a very long time.
I really think Alonso,
is a very good defender. I mean, this is a good team.
Alonso Martinez, I think, is the most underrated attacker in the league right now. What other guy scored 17 goals this year whose name you hear less than him? They kept him completely out of that game.
Nobody.
That was going into that game. I was like, man, I would be shocked if Alonso Martinez, every time he plays on that baseball field, that guy's scoring at least 1 goal. It was a big time effort, honestly, from the defense to keep him at bay. And they concede the 1 goal, which was unfortunate. But like, if you're playing NYC FC on the road and you hold them to 1 goal, that's a good day at the office, especially when you consider like one of the things that I really liked about this performance from Seattle was just kind of the control they exerted over the game state and the tempo and how they were in possession and all that. I thought all that was right where it needed to be for the playoffs, which that has not always been the case for this team this season. There's been parts of this season where defensively it has not been airtight. Let's say, we all know about the red card boys, but like, they conceded 48 goals this year, which is uncharacteristic of a Sounders team. I thought defensively and in midfield in this NYC game, it looked more like the type of the disciplined and fundamentally sound defensive play that we've come to expect from the Seattle Sounders.
And conceptually, again, it's about having a team that can go out there and perform on the road with changes to the exact same effect that it has all week. And we had been praising this coaching staff for doing so. And when he came to the pressing, the spacing, the possession moments they had were great. There was patience on the ball, which is something that this team thrives on. And at times they get too rushed. I mean, all of it was quite there. I thought that Danny Leiva's performance was outstanding. And it's a guy that you want to continue to build up for if you need him in the playoffs, whether it's a set piece, whether it's a moment where you need to sub out Obed, let's knock on wood, but an injury, anything that could potentially happen. Brian did a good job at getting all these players on the right path, on the right mentality. JP had another strong game, right? Jesus Ferreira, I've been saying that I didn't want him to lose that edge because he's really built that up. And in what we learned this week on Friday, I highlighted him not just because of his talent and what he's been able to do on the field, but leadership wise, he's pulling guys aside. He's talking to them more than he used to. He has really taking a step forward when it comes to being another guy in that field, that because he's so cerebral, he can share a lot of things and he could really get these guys up to speed. I thought Jordan Morris needed this game and he comes up with the goal. A great set piece by Albert Rusnak. A great header, the way he flicks it, the way he gets to that ball. I thought that he was good on link up play. I thought that he was good, making himself available for a lot of opportunities. He creates a PK that eventually gets overturned by VAR. I mean, all of those things that Jordan was doing, that was huge. That was huge prior to the playoffs because he needed that. And we said that going into this game, if there's a player that needs this game, is Jordan Morris. So all the objectives you can check on, and that's why this was such a complete game, I thought, from the Sounders.
Jesus Ferreira was so good in this game, and it's just it's kind of funny. Just we posted a reel on our Instagram and TikTok of it's like Noah giving a pro Jesus Ferreira take, man. And I looked at the comments, and there's still I think most people have come around on this topic, but you still get a couple of those oh, he was a ghost, he wasn't worth the trade. I'm just oh my god, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills sometimes. Yep. I have no idea for the life of me how you could watch that game and come to any other conclusion other than Jesus Ferreira was balling out of control, man. That was one of his better games of the year. He just, he snake bit as far as the stat sheet goes. So maybe that's where that stuff comes from. I was just I don't know how that's still out there with the form that he's been in over the last
people don't quite get that, right? And look, I get that, sometimes he could be a little bit more aggressive and things like that, but he's just playing a different role. And I don't think that quite gets with people, but his pressing, his defensive contributions, his link up play, everything that he does in terms of spacing. I mean, he's just such a cerebral player. Just looking at the stat sheet, right? He had 4 defensive contributions. He was 1 of 4 on chalk targets, 39 touches. 5 passes into the final third. That's a big one. 3 of 5 out of accurate long balls. I mean, when it comes to switching the ball and switching the point of attack, he does it so well, and he does it so timely that is key for what the Sounders do. And when we're talking about patience, he's one of the players that is going to take a second, turn around, keep possession, pass it to the right person, then make himself available, ask for the ball. He creates those overloads. I think that there's a lot of what Ferreira does that maybe people do not see.
All right, Nico, let's take a look at we got a couple more things to get to here. Let's take a look at the rest of the playoff matchups from around Major League Soccer, and then we'll talk some Chris Armas and Ronnie Dyla to close it out. Yours wasn't even the most blatant coach press conference of the weekend, but go ahead.
Before you go, I just wanted to praise 2 guys. Obviously, we've talked about Jackson Reagan. He was my player of the match. And then Stefan Fry. Stefan Fry being able to, once again, come out big when he was needed. That is something that people want to see. I continue to, again, praise the decision to keep him on. I think that he has put all conversations and debates aside. So those are 2 guys that I wanted to add on. And Albert, too. let's give Albert some praise as well. Coming in after not being available because of the red card, I thought he had a very good game as well. Very effective on the ball.
Really good assist.
Yeah, really good assist as well.
All right, well, folks, with decision day in the books, we have got the matchups for the MLS Cup Playoffs set. Let's take a look and scope out which matchups we think are the best, what we'll be watching for, and we'll start. Let's start right here with the wild card matchups. Some people don't like the wild card, that there are wild card teams. They say it's too many teams that are able to qualify for the playoffs, which there might be something to that. But I do enjoy getting to watch these teams duel for the rest of our entertainment. It is fun to watch them scrap it out when you're not a part of it. In the Eastern Conference, you have Chicago Fire against Orlando City SC. Orlando fell all the way down to the 9 seed, which is kind of crazy. And honestly,
crazy.
I think Chicago might win that game. And then Nico, the Portland Timbies, God love them. They fall into the wild card round as well, where they'll be taking on Real Salt Lake. Chicago, Orlando, for me, the notable thing about that is that you got an Orlando team that really was kind of an Eastern Conference frontrunner for a lot of this year until the last month or so. And they have they've almost fell out of the playoffs entirely, but they tailspin all the way down to the 9 seed, which that's just kind of unexpected. And they're playing a Chicago team that I kind of like this Chicago team, Nico. They don't defend very well still, but they score a lot of goals. They're pretty fun to watch. I think this year has kind of reinforced that, whatever you want to say about Greg Berhalter and his tenure with the U.S. men's national team, which I think was more honestly a neutral tenure than outright bad, like some people characterize it. This guy clearly knows how to coach an MLS, because getting the Chicago Fire to the playoffs, not an easy feat. I don't know if anyone's managed to do that. It's either
on his first year.
Yeah. And they haven't made it. They never make the playoffs. I think they made it last in 2017 or something. This has been one of the most not good clubs in the league for a long time now. Berhalter got him to the playoffs in the East and has them. I think they're the favorite against Orlando. But Nico, the Timbies, what's going on, man? Phil Neville said it was a failure if they fall into the wild card round. So that's that's what happened. So that's not good for him. But he is coaching for his job right now, in these playoffs. If they make a good run and look good in the playoffs and make it close to MLS Cup or to MLS Cup, if that happens, then I think Phil Neville is back. If they bomb out in the wild card to RSL, he's probably out of there, isn't he? I don't see a way around that.
The biggest problem with Phil Neville's Timbers is that they lack an identity. There's a rotating door of multiple positions, including midfield, including fullback. They are a team that's very easy to play through in the midfield. They have tried all kinds of pairings of Ortiz and Paredes and Ayala, and they're still trying to rely on Diego Charad, that God help him. The guy cannot do any more for a club than he's already done. How much more could you ask of this guy? I think that offensively, they are too inconsistent. And you look at this team, you look at the quality, the on paper, there's such a nice looking team, but when it comes to the execution and when it comes to the concepts and being able to do it on the field, they're just hard to watch. It's so first of all, uninspired play many times. They rarely win duels. They're a team that has such a hard time possessing the ball. Simply when it comes to intricate passing is just not quite there. The Timbers are at their best whenever they're able to get the ball out wide, when Anthony's doing his thing, when there's individualities from Velde, when Acosta's filling it and he could give you some magic. They depend too much on individual play, but the collectiveness is just not quite there. And that just has been their downfall throughout the whole game. And when you play a team like San Diego, that's the total opposite, that they know exactly what they want to do with the ball, that they play almost at a level of just understanding and knowing that a player is going to be in that position. It's just easy to play. You look at the couple of chances and the goals that Dreyer got. It's an easy through ball past the back line, Dryer's behind him, and then he's just finishing in front of goal, Rainbow's the goalkeeper. I mean, it's too easy to score on this team. And then not to mention the fact that later they give an easy possession coming out of the back. They're just gifting goals on top of it. I mean, it's just too sloppy. And there's just no real sense of what you can't tell me what it is that Phil Neville has his team do well. Like, if you can point out one thing that every single time the Timbers are going to do well, you can't find one. So that's going to continue to be their problem. And I think it's going to be their downfall.
Yeah. The Timbies, for as long as I can remember, have been like a really good counterattacking team that can score a lot of goals. It looked like they were kind of like that at the beginning of the year. And maybe for like half the season, but it feels like the second half of the season and down the stretch, they have kind of even lost that identity. And like I didn't even mention it, but 4-0 on decision day at home against San Diego, who obviously they've been one of the best teams in the league all year. They got first in the West, but you still, you can't get 4-0 at home on decision day. That's kind of why I think he's coaching for his job right now, is because think about how their season ended last year. I think it was 6-0 at home to the Vancouver Whitecaps.
I remember
in the playoffs, was it not? Then you get 4-0 this year on decision day. You need to be in good standing as a coach. You typically, especially like a new coach like Phil Nevs within the last couple of years, you need to be showing forward progress year over year. And if anything, they've stagnated or regressed. So it's just
they really have.
Like we'll be keeping tabs on the Timbies and see what the future holds for them. But for me, if I had to guess right now, they're probably looking at a new coach in 2026. Nico, who do you like in these wild card matchups? I got Chicago and Real Salt Lake. I think Real Salt Lake is gonna X-dog them to death. I think Pablo Mastroeni, this is what he does. He's able to win games like this. So I kind of like Real Salt Lake in that matchup, not because they're good, but because they got X-dog and the Timbies are reeling. Do you see either of those differently?
No, to be honest, I did kind of went back and forth because of how bad RSL looked against San Luis there late in that game. But I'm with you. I think that when I'm looking at a playoff game, I'm looking for the team that has the better coaching, that has the better collective play, that is willing to kind of grind out a game, that has better defensive discipline. And I think that's RSL, right? I think Pablo does a great job at getting his teams up for this sort of games. I think that Gozo coming back was important. You saw him assist on a couple of those goals. Victor looked, pretty dangerous up top. Luna's back. I think that defensively, Vera and Glad, they have moments where there's a lack of communication there, but for the most part, they're pretty consistent. I just don't see this Timbers team being able to get on the offensive quickly enough, be able to expose with those overloads. Juan David Mosquera, sometimes he's so hot and cold, and when him and Anthony are on, the Timbers look better, but he's so hard to really get on. And Anthony, who's your most consistent player, he can't do anything by himself. He looks so alone sometimes. And then the rotating door between Kelsey and Mora, pick a guy and stick with him and make sure that he gets that confidence, because neither guy is confident. Neither Kelsey or Mora, I would bet on scoring a goal against RSL, because they have been that bad as of recent. So for me, RSL is the clear-cut answer. And on the other side, I'm a little bit more heartbroken. I have been so high on Orlando all
you are the
season
Orlando
long.
Guy. You got to learn. You're always the Orlando guy, and it always backs.
Always, and he bites me in the butt every single time.
I get
it's
it.
Like
Oscar
a toxic
Perea,
relationship, where I can't let it go.
Martino Hayda, Oscar Perea, coaching. The roster is really good. They look really good on offense sometimes. What have you been? I haven't really been watching them that much. What is going on with them? Like, why are they so bad right now?
They have really lost they've lost their edge on the attack, right? There was a moment in time where you felt like Muriel had turned into the Muriel of Serie A. You felt like Ramiro was just scoring all around at will. Martino Heda, obviously MVP type of season. The midfield was looking really good with Atuesta there. And over the last, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 games, there has been just inconsistency on their attack. And when they're unable to put the opposition under duress, they're not necessarily built to absorb pressure, because if they have a little bit of a downfall is their center backs. They're just not quality center backs, and they depend a lot of how their holding mids really kind of play the game. And because of that, they just have been put in bad positions. Not to mention that Pedro Galese has had a pretty irregular season. And when Pedro Galese is not the octopus and he becomes the calamari, that team just has a real hard time getting through games, right? So it's difficult because Oscar Pereira has a guy that typically gets his teams very disciplined, very organized, but this Orlando team, it just hasn't been consistent. And when you don't have a floor that is visible, that's when I have an issue with your play. However, even with all that said, I think that Greg has issues of his own. I like Cyprus. I like what this Chicago Fire team does, but I do feel like a lot of times they trip themselves and they have a lot of issues just coming out of the back, and they have a lot of issues with the way that they try to build out their game. That I don't know. I'm going to go with Orlando because I don't learn my lesson, and because I believe that Duncan McGuire and this team are going to figure it out, and Angulo, who has been awful the last couple of games, is going to figure it out, and Freeman, who's one of the better U22s in MLS, is going to have a baller of a game. So I'm going to go with Orlando and Oscar Pereira, without listening to you or my family members or my group of let go of Orlando City, sir. So yeah, I'm going to go with Orlando. I'm going to go with RSL.
You can't let it go. Let's take a quick look at the rest of these matchups, and then we'll hit Chris Armas and Ronnie Dyla discourse to close it out. On Friday, you got Miami-Nashville, which, Miami famously lost to Brad Guzan and Atlanta United, who were the 9 seed last year. In the playoffs. So I think there's as much pressure on Inter Miami as anyone else in the playoffs. This is definitely not house money for them. They need to win MLS Cup. MLS Cup. And their first obstacle to get there is going to be a Nashville team that somehow ended up as the 6th seed. I feel like they were better than that this year, but I guess not. They are house moneying a little bit here because they won the Open Cup. They got their first ever trophy, and now they got to deal with Miami and the Barca boys, who I'm not going to pick against the Barca boys in round 1, but I also didn't pick against them last year, and they lost. They got owned by Brad Guzan, so I guess you never know. But I'm mainly keeping an eye on that one, just for the storyline of whether the Barca boys can actually get this MLS Cup thing over the line. They have not been able to do that yet, and you got Busquets retiring, you got Jordi Alba retiring. Who knows what's going to happen with Luis Suarez? So a lot riding on that one. And then Philly and San Diego, they don't have their opponents yet. 1 seeds, they get the bye. You got Vancouver, Dallas, Cincy, Columbus. The hell is real. So that's what we're looking at from Monday through Monday. Those are going to be the matchups. And then you got Minnesota, Seattle, actually also on Monday. Charlotte, NYC, LAFC, Austin. What are you looking at with these, Nico? Anything stand out as the best matchups, or anything you're keeping your eye on with these?
Yeah, Cincinnati Columbus just always has a different feel to it. I think Columbus is trying to get right. They're still a team that is a little bit of a shell of what a Wilfred Nancy and a Columbus team, to be quite honest, look like on the field. There have been some improvements. If you're gonna get it right, it might as well be against an arch rival like Cincinnati. I think Gazdag is getting hot in the right time. I still feel like they lack that finishing touch. They just don't have that guy up there that's going to really put it together. But if you can collectively add some goals, and you can get Arfson to get some goals, and you can get Nackby to get some goals, and Russell Rowe, who's a guy that's been up and down for him, he can get hot at the right time. That could be a good one. But Cincinnati is just, to me, just too powerful, just too strong. Brenner and Evander, and there's just so many weapons there that can come up for the Cincinnati team that I think that obviously the favorites, they should be able to get through, but it's going to be fun no matter what. I think that this game is going to be the most entertaining out of all of them. The Inter Miami Nashville is interesting because of a 3-game series, right? I think Nashville is built better to do different things with their setup. And like you mentioned, there was a point where Nashville was like in the Shield race, they were red hot, and some Surge was killing it, and Mukhtar was amazing, and all of these things. But in this game against Inter Miami just now, which is going to be a rematch, look, they had control of that game in the first 45 minutes. And then all of a sudden, Andy Najar is a silly handball. You give Messi a PK, you give the momentum, and in literally 25 minutes, they flipped the score to 5-2, which is wild because you do have that Messi factor. But that's going to be an interesting one. I think that one's going to go to 3. I think that one's going to be a lot more difficult than people may see.
Yeah, that decision day game between Inter Miami and Nashville, that kind of showed, like, to me it was like what Seattle did to Inter Miami in the Leagues Cup final. It's like you kind of can't undersell how impressive that was, because that team can do stuff like that in any given game. It's like, it's not easy to prevent like that. And you saw that, like, Nashville, is a good team. They've been a solid to very good at times team in the East. They won Open Cup this year, and they couldn't stop it. And that was at Nashville. That was at Geodis Park. That was not in Fort Lauderdale.
And then right. two quick notes on the other two. The only thing I will say about the Charlotte New York City game is, Saha, why are you so selfish? Why are you so selfish?
That's bad.
How could you possibly be this phenomenal player, this electric guy who had a phenomenal goal, a beautiful technique with the outside of your foot, and then you're going to cost your team a red card in the 89th minute on a 2-0 game?
So bad.
The petulance, the selfishness, the childish play. I mean, you're supposed to be a leader, man. I mean, it's honestly, it blows my mind. And honestly, if New York City ends up winning this series, is going to be because in the first game that you could have taken the lead, you're going to be without your most prolific player, and you're going to give New York City the advantage. So just selfish, man. Absolutely selfish. And then when it comes to Sounders, Minnesota, this is a totally different ball game. This is a totally different roster than the one that beat the Sounders twice this year. So I think Seattle has the edge. I think they're the favorites, and they should be able to get through Minnesota.
We've been pro Willie Zaha on this show all year. He's a lot of fun. He's been a fun character. His crash outs have been endearing at times. His Snapchat presence is legendary. I haven't checked his Snapchat since that red card, but I can imagine that there was some good content on there that you can't, like you said, 89th minute, up 2-0. There is no reason at all to get into anything. Like, that was just mind-blowing with what was at stake and going into the playoffs. You're winning the game. You scored a goal. The team's having a really good year. They were my dark horse pick in the East to make MLS Cup. That was worse than any red card the Seattle Sounders got this year on principle. Agree. And that's saying a lot. All right, Nico, let's talk about some Chris Armas. Does that sound good? That's not something that I expected to be doing today, but we're going to be doing it because, we all saw your and Schmetz's interaction at the Sounders post-game presser. It was not the most blazing hot coach press conference of decision day. And we're going to do a blazing hot coach press conference right now, sponsored by Hacks and Ferments, LobbingScorchers.com/sauce to get our hot sauce that we made in collaboration with Hacks and Ferments. And they sponsored this segment. And we haven't done this segment in a while. I frankly haven't been on it enough about monitoring the pressers. I usually pride myself on knowing if there's a blazing hot presser. And last few weeks or so, I haven't been locked in on that. But I mean, it got lobbed over the plate for us this weekend between the Schmetz presser, which was blazing hot after a win. But let's talk about this Chris Armas one, because this was telling. I thought this was telling. Chris Armas, head coach, Colorado Rapids, they missed the playoffs. Not a good year for them. You know, we were talking about the Timbies regression with Phil Neves. The Rapids had a pretty good year last year. They got last in the West 2 years ago. Last year they made the playoffs. I think they finished 7th, and they got absolutely boat raced in the playoffs. I can't remember by who, but they got absolutely boat raced. I think it was by the Galaxy, 9-1 aggregate. So, but like they made the playoffs. They took a step forward, and I'll be honest, like I thought that Chris Armas it seemed like he was doing a good job. He had them playing better last year, and I have never been as anti Chris Armas maybe as some people. He had a less than distinguished 10 years at New York Red Bulls and at Toronto, and that's why his hiring by Colorado got kind of lampooned, because of how badly it went off the rails in Toronto. I was never sure how much of what happened in Toronto was due to it being Chris Armas or it being Toronto. Like, it's a dysfunctional organization. Not many coaches would have thrived in the environment they had at that time, and he had MLS experience. So I was like, all right, I mean, let's see how this goes. It seemed like it was going okay last year. This year, it did not go as well. They were fighting for the playoffs on the last day, but they didn't make it. Chris Armas has given his post-game press conference after the game, and he gets a question from Matt Pollard of the Burgundy Wave, which is like the SB Nation blog that covers the Colorado Rapids. And he goes off on Matt. We're gonna play it right now, and then talk about it. But I think, just to set the stage, it did not go well for the Colorado Rapids, really, on decision day or in 2025. So let's play this sound from Chris Armas at his post-game presser, and then we'll react.
Burgundy Wave. Chris, now with the season over and the team not making the playoffs, you've been generally positive.
Matt, we didn't make the playoffs.
The Colorado Rapids missed the playoffs. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Always good to you remind me of this stuff. Yeah, good. Yeah, what you got?
With the season ending, and now knowing the conclusion of that, where do you think this leaves in terms of your tenure with the club and possibly coming back? Thank you.
Well, I'm not sure what you're going to put out there, Matt, because it's always from you guys and what your outlet. It's always negative. It's always poking holes in the team. It's attacking the coaching. I'm not sure where you're going to go with what you do. You do what you do, and not sure if people will read it, but I don't appreciate all the negativity you've given us over the months and even, quite honestly, the few years. So have fun with this one that we didn't make the playoffs. But yeah, my future with the team, listen, it's fresh, just ended. We'll have discussions with leadership and continue some discussions. That's all I can say for now.
Coach Mitchell with Conversation Radio.
He's cooked, Nico. He's cooked.
Yep.
He's cooked. He knows he's cooked. That's the only reason you do that. That's just that was one of the lamest things I've ever seen from an MLS coach. That was so bad. Like for so many reasons. First of all, it's another one of those situations where how can you be like aggrieved or surprised that question is coming? Like, it couldn't be a more fair or expected question, number one. Number two, Matt Pollard, who Burgundy Wave, and he hosts the Holding the Highline podcast. Mark Asher Goodman, his co-host, has been on this show. Those guys are my go-to outlet for Colorado Rapids coverage. So yeah, I mean, everyone's subbed to their stuff. They do great work. But I went back and looked at some of their Colorado Rapids coverage to see what Chris Armas was talking about. They couldn't have been more fair or deferential, like calling it straight down the middle, and in fact giving Chris Armas like credit for the things that they said he does well. They said he's been professional to cover and had no issues with him as far as any of that goes. So the idea that they were like incessantly negative is just not accurate at all. So like, just the fact that he reacted like that is ridiculous. And there's just there's no reason to do that unless you feel like you're probably cooked. The Burgundy Wave, they're one of the only outlets that actually gives regular coverage of the Colorado Rapids. That's the other thing. So their organization and their coaches, they should be appreciative of them. And then finally, like, Chris, my guy, the reason the coverage is negative is because the team is bad. That's it. There's nothing more to it than that. If the team was playing well and taking good results, then the coverage would be good. How is someone who has played professional soccer for as long as he did and now been a coach for as long as he has not understand that? It blows my mind, man. Like, if you're getting like negative coverage in the way that he's describing it, that's on you. Coach better, have a better team, have a team that wins, and then you have the agency to change that. If your team is not good, like this team is not good, how do you not understand that the coverage is not going to be positive? What do you expect?
Yeah, I think that coaches, like everyone else, a lot of times they're emotional and they're wear their feelings on their sleeves, and it doesn't happen all the time, but there is that one moment where it happens and you kind of get unraveled. And we've seen it with Caleb Porter, trying to argue with the press member about, does he know more than I do about where a guy should play, a whole bunch of pettiness that I think it happens because, look, there is a lot of work that goes into putting together a team, and no one's discussing that, right? But as you mentioned, you should be waiting for those questions. And although I know it's hard to do, I would think that knowing that those sort of questions are coming, you should be more prepared for it. So, I think it happens, with Brian Smetzer, like it happened just recently. Your mind is somewhere else. Your mind is more focused on what just happened and what that's going to look like for the near future. When it comes to Chris Armas, he's thinking about, look, I've been reading all this negative stuff and I've been waiting to tell you off. So I'm going to use this last presser to tell you off, right? That you've been writing negatively and all these things. And maybe it wasn't consistent. Maybe it was just an article or two that he read and then he stuck with that. Because I have that with Brian as well. Ironically, I've been praising him for the last 4 weeks and still he thinks that we're talking negatively about him, right? And I think that happens with a lot of coaches, that maybe they hang on to a quote, a tweet, an article, a comment that they heard, and then it just kind of goes from there. And at some point, you kind of want to get that splinter off your hand, and then you do it in an unclassless way. And I think that's what happened to Chris Armas in this one. And it is unfortunate because I do think that he's a good coach. He just hasn't not been able to really do enough with this roster. Because you look at the Colorado roster, that's a good roster, man. I mean, you look at a guy like Aronson and Bassett and Reggie Cannon and Vines, Navarro. I mean, these are quality players that he has. He has Zach Steffen. They basically, he asked and they brought it, right? I mean, he got everything that he wanted to get to build his team, and he wasn't able to deliver. So you got to kind of live with that. You got to take accountability and say, hey, look, I got everything that I wanted. I got the team that I wanted, and I was unable to get him to the playoffs. And as simple as that. But to be empathetic, I think it'd be very hard to be criticized on my work consistently and then not be able to kind of let it out. So I get it to a certain extent.
Job though,
but it's part of the job. Exactly. Exactly. But it's part of the job. Correct. That is exactly it.
I thought the other most ridiculous part of that diatribe was when he was like, I don't even know if anyone reads it. Well, first of all, if no one reads it, why do you care? Second of all, you read it. You clearly read it.
Yeah,
if someone's reading it, you are.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
And I think you're absolutely right about the fact that, look, a market like Colorado should be happy that there's someone writing about it. Worry when nobody writes about you. If it's good, if it's bad, there's somebody invested in providing some coverage. When that coverage is gone, that's when you should worry about it. That's when you be, oh, where are these guys at? So they should be more valued. They absolutely should be more valued.
Antagonizing and making the media's job more difficult is unfortunately kind of a prevalent issue throughout MLS. I will say I appreciate the Seattle Sounders because they don't operate like that
They don't
at all. Like I've never had a single issue with them like taking offense or coming after me or any of us for quote unquote negative coverage. They accept the coverage, whatever it is. Like they understand that when the results are not going well, the coverage is probably going to be more critical, and that's just part of it. They don't do stuff where they talk about like revoking credentials if you say something critical of the team or the coach. So seeing that, it does make me appreciative of how their organization and their public relations staff operate, because we don't have to deal with that stuff, Nico. We can, as long as we are fair about what we're saying and not attacking anybody. I've never gotten any indication that they care about stuff like that.
No,
So,
and even if there's an issue, they're going to approach you directly. They're going to take care of it professionally, and they're going to figure out a way to make it better. We've had situations with, media members that have done this, that maybe they didn't know at the time. They were at the wrong location. They were somewhere in the stadium they weren't supposed to. It's a conversation is had. But yeah, I think that the Sounders PR team is the best in MLS, and not just because of
as
what
far
you
as
just
this
said.
issue goes, I really think they are. Like,
Yeah, well, not just that, but in terms of accessibility, as someone that has worked with several, maybe 10 or 11 different teams to get players for Zoom conferences, go to their stadiums, work on a one-on-one at a hotel or something like that. The Sounders have always been extremely gracious. When I was doing a lot of work for MLS ES, 2019 conference final in LA, needed something to know with Raul Ruidiaz at the hotel. They were gracious enough to give me a time. Here's where we're going to meet. Here's the timeline, all these things. Ever since I started covering the team, they've always been phenomenal. But this one specifically, this particular team right now with Gigi and Kevin and Alex and Matt, they're just always phenomenal on helping us with the access, which is huge for what we do.
Yeah, 100%. All right, Nico, one more topic for this morning, and then we'll get out of here. Ronnie Dyla out at Atlanta United. It was a riveting tenure that he had that started at the beginning of this season and made it to the end of this season. Now it's over. This was expected, but I think also underscores just like how far things have gone off the rails for Atlanta United. This is a situation that I honestly couldn't have happen. They needed to get this Dyla hire right. It seemed like they went for the high floor, high percentage option, a coach who has experience in MLS, who has shown that he can win in MLS. He won MLS Cup with NYCFC. So all of that made sense at the time. They spend $40 million over the offseason, bringing Miguel Almiron back, $22 million MLS transfer record on Emmanuel Latte-Loth. Alexei Marinchuk, $10+ million player. They got this high-priced, high-powered attack. Garth Lagerwey says we're back, and then they go out there and they were literally playing for the wooden spoon on the last day of the season. Arthur Blank releases a letter to the supporters, like basically apologizing for the results and the performances this season, and then they fire the coach. Nico, I guess what do you make of how this actually ended up going down, and then really where Atlanta United is at, man? One of the highest spending teams in the league, a club that took MLS by storm in their first couple years in the league, and now they're playing for the wooden spoon and firing their coach despite spending $40 million. Where do they go from here? What happened? How did we get here?
Atlanta United continues to be haunted by the curse of the Martino. After Tata Martino and their phenomenal start and their high praise team that just took the league by storm and won a championship, once Tata was gone, that curse was set upon Atlanta, and it has been awful since. This is their sixth head coach that has taken over, whether it's interim head coach or hired. Out of the last four hired, only one, Gonzalo Pineda, has lasted more than a season. Maybe De Boer had won in a little bit, but other than that, I mean, it's been awful. Heinze was a miss, De Boer was a miss, and now Ronnie Dyla, he just didn't fit, right? So you could build the team that you want and put all the money that you want, but if the head coach cannot get the best out of the players, it's just not going to work. So unfortunately for Atlanta United, you're right. They went with the household name, the name that had won an MLS Cup, that had European, experience. Sorry, I got a call there. That had European experience, and it just didn't work out. Now, I wouldn't blame Garth for it. I've heard a lot of that. Garth lost at all these things. Garth's in a completely different role. Now, he's part of the decision process, but that's no longer his role. And so it's hard for me to compare him to what he did at the Sounders organization. Now he's working on similar things, on building that academy, doing a lot of the things that he did here as he's helping out, but that's not necessarily his job. I do believe that the next one, there will be more in lines of the intangibles and the fit of what this roster has, but it just hasn't been easy for Atlanta United, right? I mean, from just a whole bunch of missed pieces and missed DPs and money that was wasted along the lines. When Garth Lagerwey got there, he got rid of a whole bunch of dead weight that needed to get rid of. He gave what is the name of the former GM? Bocanegra time to try to figure it out and all of these things. Then he took him off, brought in Chris Henderson. So I think from now on, they'll be in the right path, but it definitely has been a disaster in Atlanta.
The name that I've seen as far as who their next head coach is going to be, the name I've seen floated the most is Tata. He's unemployed right now. And apparently, reportedly, I think Tom Bogues reported that there is, like, it's not just speculation, like there is genuine interest from Tata to make a return to Atlanta United, which do you think that's a good idea? Because on one, it's getting talked about like a good idea. Like all the pundits are like, this would be perfect. Bring Tata back. He's got such a distinguished track record, both with this exact club. And then, Inter Miami, he was the coach when Messi first got there. And they were a lot better, I feel like, under him than they've been under
absolutely
and under Mascherano. So on one hand, I get why people think that that's logical and it could be the best course of action for them. But then there's another part of me, Nico, where I'm like, dude, like, you already brought Almiron back and that didn't work. Like, just bringing everyone back from the 2017, 2018 glory days and then hoping that that's going to be what recaptures it. I just don't know if that actually, like, I feel like we saw an analogous situation with what they tried to do bringing Almiron back. And I realize it's different because it's a coach and Tata's got so much pedigree and track record. I don't know. I can't help but feel like hearkening back to the past again with another hire. I don't know if that's going to be what gets you guys out of this. Like, you need to like find what's next, what's in the future. Like, what are you going to do next? Bring Joseph back too? Like, I don't know. I just don't know. I'm a little skeptical of that. What do you think of the whole Tata idea?
No, look, I like it. I like it because Tata's a good fit for many reasons, right? Tata still has a lot of push, a lot of influence in South America to go out there and get these young prospects, to really get guys interested to playing for him, right? And he has, a blank check for anybody who wants it, right? So it fits. I think that he fits with the current players that are likely going to stay there in Almiron and Lot and all these other guys that I think could benefit from a coach that has the experience, can handle a locker room like no other, has the experience both on the international level and in MLS, and has been a winner. I mean, Tata is a winner. And he's going to come in and he's going to raise your floor immediately as soon as he gets there.
That's what they said about Dyla.
Well, I just don't think he has the same track record.
Same number of MLS Cups won.
Well, that is true, but I mean that's one thing. I'm talking about track record at the international level, and internally, of course, too. But the other name is Jim Curtin. I mean, those are the two names that I think
I like that
would
idea better.
Fit the aspirations of a club that is in dire need to get back to the winning, and that has all of the resources in the world, that has this phenomenal stadium, this phenomenal fan base, that they were so good, so quick, so early on that bar got set so high that they have been unable to replicate it. I think that it's Jim Curtin and Tata, the only two names that I see feasible to get that sort of responsibility and get this team on the right direction. So we talked about Tata, everything that he can do to get this team in the right direction. Jim too, right? Jim is a guy that's going to be able to develop your players too. If Garth's going to do what he did here and kind of invest in the academy and really get some sustainability there, Jim can do that. He could create an identity. He understands the league. So, that could be another way to go about it. But for me, those two guys are the biggest names that could be potential candidates for that job.
Yeah, me personally, I like the Curtin idea more, but I mean, I understand the thought process behind why they might go for Tata. And honestly, if I have to predict it, I think, seeing that Tata actually has that interest, I think that's kind of all you need to have. And then they would happily welcome him back with open arms. So we'll see. We'll see if that happens, and then we'll see if it works. Nico, we are all out of time for this morning, so let's wrap it up right there. Thank you all so much, as always, for tuning in. Another banger show. We'll be at it this week with all your playoff coverage. Stay tuned for timing on all that stuff. Follow me on Blue Sky if you haven't. Like, comment, subscribe, rate 5 stars. Everyone still in chat. Everyone
like the video right now. Come on now.
Like the video right now. Like the video. Sub to the channel and follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Stay tuned for all the postseason coverage this week, and we'll catch you next time. We out.
Some people come to Lumen Field for the tactics, for the soccer, the atmosphere, and some come for Paul Rothrock's hair. Me personally, I come for both, because I have agendas to push. Live soccer isn't just better, it's way more personal. From making friends to becoming the guy in your section that's just constantly yelling about advanced statistics. Get tickets to any Sounders match by visiting lobbingscorchers.com/tickets. You support the pod, our agendas, the vibes, and the chaos.